Coming up on the AFN Evening News.
The most dangerous roads in Iraq.
Really have to pay attention on this road. It's very dangerous.
Airmen are working with local police to make at least one safer. And force protection keeps soldiers from really experiencing the local culture downrange. That's why AFIS is bringing the culture to the troops. Plus, standardized tests. How do your kids fare with their stateside counterparts?
The AFN Evening News. Real news for real people.
Shopkeepers and residents kill 3 militants in a Baghdad gunfight. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Army Sergeant Michelle Johnson. After hooded insurgents opened fire on shoppers, the people fought back. We'll have the full details in a moment. Up first tonight, after spending 4 days downrange, Secretary of the Army Dr. Francis Harvey said he could see the difference U.S. service members make for the Iraqi people. After his time in the desert, he visited wounded service members at the Longshore Regional Medical Center. There he saw the physical sacrifices U.S. troops have made to help the Iraqi people. And though many of the troops he visited there were severely wounded, they were still positive about the mission.
It never ceases to amaze me the morale and the courage and the bravery of our soldiers. We just got done with a sergeant who was in an IED accident, and he's going to lose his eye. But I'll tell you what, he's proud of what he did. He knows he made a difference in Iraq. He knows that the people of Iraq are espousing freedom and democracy. They like it, and they're courageous. And he was just really positive, very inspirational.
Turning now to the headlines in the war on terror, hooded men began shooting at passers-by on one of Baghdad's main streets yesterday, and some shopkeepers and residents pulled out their guns and fired back. Interior Ministry officials say the clash in the capital's southern Dour neighborhood erupted when militants in 3 cars sprayed bullets at shoppers. 3 people were wounded, 3 insurgents were killed in the gunfight. The president of the Ukraine has signed an order withdrawing his country's troops from Iraq. Viktor Yushchenko vowed during his campaign to bring back the 1,600 troops serving in Iraq. Some of the troops began returning home last week, and a top security official says they'll decide the final withdrawal date after consulting with other coalition members. He says the entire force is likely to leave November or December. Ukrainians strongly oppose the U.S.-led war, but the government later agreed to send a large contingent to serve under Polish command in central and southern Iraq. Senator John McCain says an upcoming report on intelligence failures should not lead to new questions about whether the Iraq war was justified. He says America, the world, and Iraq are better off for what the U.S. did in bringing democracy to the country. McCain is a member of a commission formed by President Bush to examine how the U.S. Intelligence community arrived at its assessments of banned weapons programs, particularly in Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. According to a government document, a terrorist suspect held at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, helped Osama bin Laden escape his mountain hideout at Tora Bora in 2001. Tora Bora is a mountainous area along Afghanistan's border with Pakistan. The document says the suspect was a commander for bin Laden during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan in the 1980s. The document is the first definitive statement from the Pentagon that bin Laden was at Tora Bora and evaded U.S. pursuers. As the search for bin Laden and his al-Qaeda cohorts continues throughout Afghanistan into Iraq, soldiers from the 1st of the 156 Mohawk platoon do their part in stamping out insurgent activity, from checkpoint security to reconnaissance foot patrols. Specialist Cole Ebel donned his suede personnel carriers, that's his boots in Army talk, and humped it through some of the most dangerous areas in Baghdad.
A whole lot of walking through grass, mud, and desert terrain. Soldiers with the 1st of the 156 Mohawk platoon received a change in mission, ordering them to observe a detainee drop-off and recon the surrounding area.
We had a change of mission early on in our patrol. We were to go out and observe a detainee drop-off. What we wanted to do is sort of disguise what we were up to. We didn't want to go straight out, pick a place to hide, and overwatch the area. So what we did was we chose a very wide, a very long patrol to actually get there. We went a long way around to get to where we wanted to go.
Setting the enemy off course isn't as easy as it sounds. It takes a lot of patience and a strong leader.
In that area, it's for us, that's the hottest area for insurgent activity. And we know that they already have an elaborate system set in for warning their cells of our movement and basically intelligence on us in that area. So basically what that is we never want to walk in a straight line, because you can pretty much get an azimuth where we're going and call up your buddies if you were an insurgent and know where we're going to go. So we do a lot of feint movements and to kind of throw them off to where our intent is that we're going to be moving to and operating in whatever area.
After they completed the trip, it was time to wait and see what was going to happen.
Well, the guys, they didn't have anything on them, but they figured that we'd get to see who he met up with and maybe record features or dress or even a license plate number, who picks him up or who he associates with.
After the soldiers got the information they needed, it was time to pack up and head home on hopefully a much shorter walk. Specialist Cole Ebel, AFN News, Baghdad.
Whether by foot or by wheels, safe passage is the goal, but it's not always as easy as it sounds. Supplies that need to get from Baghdad to Baghdad from Kuwait need to come through a highway stretch service members like to call IED Alley. Air Force Sergeant George Maurer sits in the passenger seat on a ride through this dangerous main Iraqi artery.
Security forces patrolling Iraqi streets. It's become a common sight in Iraq and has obvious benefits for the local area.
Hello.
Sir, Dawriya?
This Iraqi police checkpoint had its tent destroyed in a sandstorm the previous evening.
No good. Khayman.
And asked for assistance. The checkpoint plays a role in the safety of Ali Base.
Well, that's another circle of security for any car, vehicle bomb, or for anything like anything aggressive towards us.
Reducing aggression against American forces has this patrol traveling even further out from the main base.
You really have to pay attention on this road. It's very dangerous.
Today's patrol takes us to one of the more notorious highways in the country.
And this really is IED Alley once we go further north.
Goods transported from Kuwait into Baghdad generally come down this road. It's one of the main arteries through Iraq.
We're on this bridge because we're trying to secure our base by going out further, out into the area. What we can do on this bridge, we can monitor all activities. We have a height advantage, so we can see pretty far away to see any possible activity that's going on. Somebody surveying the base from a distance, somebody setting up mortars, etc., and somebody possibly setting IEDs. It just adds to our security from the base, which is quite a ways back.
The only thing in sight today are Bedouins going about their simple lives in mud huts. One more day of serenity on a wind-swept bridge over a lonely highway which leads directly into the heart of Baghdad. Tech Sergeant George Maurer, AFN News, outside of Nasiriyah, Iraq.
We're going to take a short break now, but don't go away, because when we come back, U.S. officials are in Israel to find out why Israel is making plans for expansion in the West Bank. Plus, these machinists do more than just repair broken equipment. If they can't find a tool or a part that they actually need, well, they simply make their own. Those stories and more when the AFN Evening News continues.
Great inspiration to me to go out and hear the national anthem played and watch the flag raised and know that all of those who have fought and died before me, that I'm paying tribute to their sacrifice and to the things that they've given here. So I would encourage others to go out and take the opportunity to pay tribute to those who have gone before us and observe colors in the morning and enjoy that and take it not on as a duty but as a privilege to be able to stand there and salute the flag.
Hey, we've been talking a lot about personal wingmen in our lives, but it's also important to remember that you have access to people like Senior Airman McAvoy, a life skills expert, and Chaplain Hanley, two of the professionals here in youth safety who can help you in tough times. These are well-trained experts like those at every base that you can call on if you need help. You put in long hours away from your family to complete the mission. Don't hesitate to contact these folks for help. Hey, your mission is important, but your well-being is priority one.
Out of the last 2 years, been deployed for about 18 months, so really looking forward to getting there.
There's a PX and there's a cafeteria where they can have something to eat.
Here at the airport, I'm gonna try to get some sleep.
Drink some coffee, try to stay awake.
In 56 countries across 5 time zones, you're watching the award-winning AFN Evening News. Real people, real news.
Taking a quick look at world news now, 2 senior Bush administration officials are asking the Israeli government to explain its plans to expand the largest Jewish settlement on the West Bank. A State Department spokesman says the U.S. is opposed to unilateral acts on either side. A National Security Council official and the Assistant Secretary of State for the Far East are now in Jerusalem talking with senior Israeli officials about the need to end settlement activity. Israel has reserved the right to enlarge Jewish settlements to accommodate the growth of families living in them. But the Bush administration wants to stop such changes while the territory's future is in dispute. Stars and Stripes, the daily newspaper of the U.S. military, officially began production and distribution operations at U.S. Naval Support Activity Bahrain this week. This is the company's 4th such operation to open in the Middle East since 2003. The new facility will produce the daily Middle East edition of Stars and Stripes. The paper will also be shipping dailies from NSA Bahrain to U.S. troops operating in northern Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. Stars and Stripes is a DoD-authorized newspaper distributed for the U.S. military community. It is editorially independent of interference from outside its editorial chain of command. To find out about how Stars and Stripes makes decisions about editorial content or other information about the paper, you can tune in to AFN's Open Line call-in show. That's next Wednesday morning, March 30th on our Power Network radio, starting at 9 Central European Time. Editor for their European and Middle East editions, Doug Clausen, will be taking calls live. The numbers are there on your screen, or you can email questions to openline@afneurope.net. Buying souvenirs from the countries you visit is a tradition for deployed soldiers. Army Sergeant Jason Allgood tells us how AFIS is helping with that tradition.
One of the perks of being deployed is experiencing the culture of the countries you visit. AFIS helps bring this culture to the service members at Bagram Airfield by hosting a monthly bazaar. Vendors from many countries bring their homemade goods to Bagram's Post Exchange.
I'm only able to have so many shops on the base, on each base. And some of these vendors that come around have no shops on the bases. So they bring their best merchandise and different choices for our troops. And the troops love it. I hear all kinds of comments all the time when I'm out there all day long, and I hear, oh, this is great, this is, we can buy this for the family, we can buy this for different people.
In addition to Bagram, the traveling bazaar visits various operating bases throughout Afghanistan, giving every soldier the chance to buy their very own Soviet gas mask, handmade chess set, or rug. All the soldier has to do is wait.
Normally I go to Afghanistan, which is Kandahar and Bagram and Salerno. I have a bazaar in Menes, Kyrgyzstan, once a month, and the same thing in Uzbekistan. We also go to the fire bases. I don't take as many vendors as I wish I could because we get fly by helicopter there. But we try to cover all the areas to include the fire bases.
With vendors from Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kurdistan, and India. From Bagram Airfield, Army Sergeant Jason Allgood, AFN News.
The bazaar also helps the fledgling economy of Afghanistan by offering local vendors easy access to service members. Last week, we introduced you to members of the 2nd of the 502nd Aviation Regiment out of Coleman Barracks in Mannheim, Germany, as they were maintaining UH-60 Blackhawks. In our series of reports on the 502nd, Air Force Sergeant Autumn White takes us inside one of their specialty shops.
One of their best-kept secrets, the machine shop on Coleman Airfield does more than the name implies. They repair worn parts, sometimes discontinued parts, and they even manufacture their own.
You make the plan with a mechanic or with a customer, and then you create a tool, a special tool. You make it, you harden it, and you test it.
They have 3 huge industrialized milling machines that can make anything from aircraft parts to small nuts and bolts.
We make special tools We make angles, form blocks, everything what's necessary we do.
Most of their work involves aircraft aluminum, but other bulk metals are also used.
There is no other. I've been in a lot of them. I've dealt with a lot of them around the world, from Alaska to here. And there's not one in the world that the Army works at that is as industrialized as here.
Pretty much anything you can imagine that's made of metal, the 2nd 502nd machine shop can make to a T.
It's great here in this shop. Yeah, we are a team. Doesn't matter German, Americans, we are a team.
Reporting from Mannheim, Germany, Air Force Sergeant Autumn White, AFN News.
We'll continue our series on the 502nd tomorrow night as Air Force Sergeant Autumn White takes us to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Air bases need to keep their vehicles running and their aircraft flying. To do that, they need to be fueled up and maintained on a daily basis. Senior Airman Tony Plyler from Aviano Air Base in Italy stopped by the fuels distribution shop and has this report.
The job of the petroleum, oils, and lubricant shop is to make sure aircraft get the fuel they need in a timely manner. Aviano's POL shop supports the wing's F-16 fighter jets as well as transient aircraft that come in from other bases.
Without POL, jets don't fly. Without POL, pilots are pedestrians.
At the fuels distribution shop, they keep the fighter jets fueled by doing a daily check of the base's 16 R11 fuel trucks. On each truck, they do a 68-point check.
They check, all the way down to the lug nut, make sure the lug nuts are tight enough. Check tire depth, make sure there's no leaks. Make sure there's no water in the air tank so nothing rusts out from the inside. Drain all the fuel, make sure there's no water or any condensation that might have caused overnight. Make sure all the oils are up, everything on the truck.
Recently, Aviano's POL shop won the Golden Drum Award. Currently, they are in the running for the American Petroleum Institute Award.
We've got a really hard-working crew here at Aviano. This particular POL flight has already won the Best in Use Safety Award for 2004. We were just inspected for the API Award, which, if we win, means that we're the best POL flight in the Air Force.
The Air Force requires a 30-minute response time to get aircraft back in the air after they've landed. Here at Aviano, our POL shop has cut that time by 2/3 by averaging a 10-minute turnaround time. Senior Airman Tony Plyler, Air Force News, Aviano Air Base, Italy.
The results of the American Petroleum Institute Award come out on April 22nd. Now it's time for some of our affiliates to switch to local programming, but when we come back, kicking the habit, the government just might pay the bill to get you to stop. Plus, how are your kids doing in school? How is your school doing for your kids? And how do they all measure up to their stateside counterparts? The answer's up next. Stick around for more Real People, Real News in a moment.
Parents and guardians are the most important influence in a child's life. But when one parent is away from home for long periods of time during deployments or training exercises, they can use a helping hand.
Mentoring offers support for both parent or guardian and the student by providing one more caring, one-on-one relationship. Students are matched with volunteers based on common interests, academic skills, and the mentor's career field. For 1 hour each week during school, the student and mentor work together on activities that help improve academic and social skills. They may also lay the foundation for future career choices.
Become a mentor. Investing 1 hour each week with a young student, like these here in Kaiserslautern, Germany, could very well be one of the most rewarding experiences you'll have. Please call the schools in your community and ask for a mentor program coordinator. A commitment to our children is a commitment to our future.
I find this a very rewarding experience because a shop as small as ours in the 104th Air Support Group, we already have a large impact contributing to the community, our services, in assisting them with matters relating to their day-to-day living. We want to make sure that they are well served and taken care of in this part of the world.
USER senior leaders want to know how we can improve programs related to family readiness and deployments. We need your input. Click on the FRG feedback link on the USER homepage and tell us what you think.
In health news tonight, The government says up to 17 million Americans voluntarily skipped getting vaccinated for the flu to allow the sick, elderly, and healthcare workers to get shots during an unexpected shortage this past year. As a result, a Centers for Disease Control and Prevention expert says people in the groups most at risk for flu were nearly as protected as they were the year before. The CDC says the likely scenario for the next flu season is that about 63 million doses will be available, compared with about 61 million this year. Now, getting troops ready for upcoming deployments has put a heavy strain on the health clinics throughout Europe. The U.S. Army Surgeon General stopped in Vicenza, Italy during his tour of Europe to see how the Vicenza medics were doing with that crisis. AFN's Aaron Talley reports.
When the top medic in the Army toured the Vicenza Health Clinic, one of the first things he noticed was the incredible operational tempo that the Vicenza medics maintain. As the U.S. Army Surgeon General, he couldn't say enough about how important a well-oiled medical staff is to a unit's ability to deploy.
And one of the linchpins for quality of life and a linchpin for combat effectiveness in my mind is your medical treatment facility and their ability to react and respond, to include expanding clinic hours, and clearly here in the Vicenza community, coordinating liaison and medical care with the local medical facility. And I think their performance has been absolutely outstanding.
General Kiley also praised the work of the many lower enlisted soldiers and reservists who played a role in getting CTAF ready to deploy. He stressed that it was a true team effort, or in his words,
from soup to nuts, it's really been a brilliant performance. Great leadership, both at the non-commissioned officer and officer level over there, and I was very, very impressed.
In Vicenza, Aaron Talley, AFN News.
Medicare is trying to help smokers kick the habit. It says it'll now cover the cost of counseling for certain beneficiaries who want to quit using tobacco. Officials say they don't know how many people may sign on to the program or how much the program will cost. Military community members already have the ability to get help with kicking the habit, as most wellness centers on posts have programs for quitters, and most of their services don't cost anything. Well, will your child's school get a passing grade this year? How do Dodd's test scores stack up against those in the States? AFN correspondent Michelle Michael reports on the standardized tests that will soon answer those questions.
Students in Department of Defense schools throughout Europe are taking the Terra Nova test. It's a standardized test that measures your child's progress and the school's progress and compares those numbers with results from schools stateside. Deborah Blank is the guidance counselor at Mannheim Elementary School.
You're looking at comparing these students with their stateside counterparts on achievement levels in reading, math, language arts, social studies, and science.
Students in the 3rd through 11th grades are taking the test. The results will help place gifted and slow learning students. They're also a way for students to hone their testing skills for the college placement exams that come in high school. While Dodd students are almost always above average when it comes to these tests, teachers say there's a lot of variables that can change the outcome, like deployments, for example.
There's a possibility that if someone's having a bad day, yes, it can definitely impact.
The final Terra Nova results won't be ready until May. Michelle Michael, AFN News, Mannheim.
Dodd's schools in Europe report consistent improvements in results every year. Now, some of our affiliates are going to switch to local programming, but up next, women changing America in Germany. Plus, women b-ballers in Germany pair off in championship play. We'll fill you in after the fast break. Stay with us. More real people, real news in a moment.
The website you've been searching for, AFNEurope.net. Get the weather and your exchange rates. Check out the latest TV and radio schedules. Listen to our radio news and watch our television stories. All at AFNEurope.net.
Your baby's brain is just like a sponge. Everything that happens is absorbed, making millions of connections. And more connections mean the baby is learning more. You can influence these connections by reading to your baby, singing songs, playing patty cake, and talking about everything, whether you're riding in the car or changing diapers. Talking and activities provide the positive inputs that your baby needs to learn. USAFE Services Family Member Programs, developing your children, youth, and the community.
Thanks so much for staying with us. The month of March is Women's History Month, and both women and men in United States Army Europe recognize the contributions of women. Over 200 people gathered at the Village Pavilion on Patrick Henry Village in Heidelberg. The event, sponsored by installation management agency Europe, highlighted this year's theme, Women Change America. The topic is more than just words to female soldiers like Sergeant Major Renita Crandall, who've benefited from the courageous women who've come before her.
It's been a long haul for women in America, and I say that because it started way back in the day for us to get recognized, to even to have our chance to vote, and to be able to make it as far as I have as a sergeant major. That means that the doors were open prior to me and allowed me to continue on just like my male counterparts, and to let them know that we are being recognized for all our hard work.
The featured speaker at the event, Deputy Chief of Staff for Installation Management Janet Menning, capped off the 2-hour luncheon by drawing on the professional contributions of women serving the U.S. Armed Forces. And there were some other women making history in Europe. The odds were in the Kitzingen Lady Rattlers' favor as they met the Ansbach Lady Cougars on the court in Würzburg, Germany. Fortunately, this isn't Las Vegas. The tables turned at the Army Europe Community Level Women's Championship game, and Sergeant Stephanie Weidman was courtside at Leighton Barracks for all the action.
Not even the Lady Rattlers could have expected the Ansbach Lady Cougars to come back the way they did in the final minutes of the game. After 3 days of kicks, passes, and fast breaks, it came down to 2 hours of intense, aggressive play. From the tip-off through most of the fourth quarter, the Rattlers played by their rules.
They're not used to running a half-court game, slowing it down their run-and-gun team. But if we get them to run our game, they'll come.
Affecting half the world, it's poverty. And the cure is in your hand.